to Talking Junk. Talking Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Welcome back to Talking Junk. I'm your host, Jason Melendez. My co-host could not be here tonight. He's out handling his own junk, so you've got me tonight. Just me. And we had two guests scheduled tonight, and one had a family emergency, so we'll have one more guest for you tonight. So we're diving deep into one of the biggest, most common junk piles in our mental apartment, intrusive thoughts. In the last episode, we introduced this concept as the first inner junk pile, the swarming pests. I know a lot of you listening have a whole infestation. These fucking things, they show up when you're trying to sleep, when you're trying to work. It's like they know when you're vulnerable. And for everyone listening, this entire episode is a deep dive into Chapter 4 of my book, Shut the Junk Up. We call them the swarming pests in the book and on the show, but they are the same intrusive thoughts that we're about to break down. This episode is about naming this junk pile, understanding it, and starting to clear it out. Now, let's get directly into what these things actually are. Intrusive thoughts are the mental junk that shows up uninvited. They're loud, they're repetitive, and often feel irrational. But here's the key from the book. They're not just random annoyances. There's several mechanisms gone rogue. Now, you might be asking yourself, how is a thought that tells me I'm a loser a survival mechanism? Let me break it down for you. They were often formed during childhood experiences, right? The adverse ones, the ACEs that we're talking about every week and at the summit next Saturday. When you're a kid in a chaotic or unsafe environment, your brain learns to constantly scan for danger. It's a necessary skill. The problem is the alarm system gets stuck in the on position. Now, as we get to the adulthood of life, the same hypervigilance shows up during everyday stress, looking for a threat that isn't there at all. Think of them like emotional mosquitoes, right? You're just trying to chilling on the porch, got some beers cracked open. Suddenly, what if everyone at work thinks you're an idiot? What if you're gonna mess this whole thing up? The worst part, and this is crucial, is that if you think their voices are your voice, but they're not. They're just the junk, the echoes of old alarms. So the big question is, how do you know if the junk is true or if it's just junk? Especially when your brain is so convincing. The book, it lays out a simple test. You got to pause. Use that sacred pause. Ask yourself these three questions, right? Is it helpful? Is it kind? And is it 100% true? With evidence. If the answer to any of those three questions is a no, then it's one of those fucking pests. One of those swarming pests. Right? And they don't get to run your mental apartment. These pests aren't just one type of bug. They come in different forms. The book breaks them down into a few ways that they show up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But the first, they're called mental spirals. This is replaying conversations over and over or imagining worst case scenarios. A perfect example is when you send a weird text and then spend the next 3 hours imagining every possible bad reaction. Your brain just gets stuck in a feedback loop. The second way is self-attacks. They show up crazy. You know it. I know it. And these are the direct hits. I'm stupid. I'm a failure. I'm never going to be good enough. These are usually just your junk beliefs that got wired into you as a kid. The old hits, the classics. Yeah. The fucking classics. The third is the false alarm, which is that sudden panic over something that isn't actually dangerous at all. But the last one, that's the most sneaky. Those are the false truths. This is when something painful happens, but you don't have all the facts. So your brain fills in the blanks with a story based on your old junk. For example, someone ghosts you and your brain decides it's because you're a terrible person. It's not just junk. It's junk dressed up to look like the truth. That's what makes it so dangerous. You're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to a story your brain made up to explain the pain. You have to use the sacred pause. Stop and say to yourself, am I feeling hurt? Am I? But I don't know the whole story. Right? You got to keep that track going. So let's get a little practical. The book outlines the junk sorting cycle for how to deal with this stuff. Here's how you start clearing those swarming pests right out. First, you have to name the thought. You externalize it. Write it down. Notes, verbalize it. Do something. Call it out. That's the not good enough story again. You have to see it instead of just being in it. Second, you have to interpret the pattern. These pests thrive on momentum, so you break the cycle. Stand up, go for a walk, do something physical to change your state. It's like hitting the hard reset button. And three, the third step, it's powerful. You talk to the pest. You don't fight it. You acknowledge it. You say, hey, I hear you. You're trying to warn me about something. You're scared, but I'm in control now. Validate them. Validate the feeling behind the thought without validating the thought itself. It's not about killing the bugs. It's about learning what they're trying to tell you. Which brings me to the last step. Resign the role. The most intrusive thoughts are just old alarms. Most of the time. You try to turn the pest from a dictator to a signal. Let me give you a real life example, right? Let's say you're about to give a presentation like I am next Saturday, and that thought hits you hard. You're gonna mess up. I think it all the time, but that's a classic swarming pest, right? It's almost like imposter syndrome. So you hit pause. You name it like I just did. That's the I'm a fraud story. That's the imposter syndrome. And then you talk to it. I hear you. You're trying to protect me from embarrassment. I thank you. But you've prepared for this. And I've got it. The pest warning. They're warning you. Because a prompt to listen. When they come and they warn you, you need to prompt yourself, right? Take a deep breath. Right? You're not in a prison that makes you freeze up. Chill out. Take a deep breath. Think about it. Right? Before that comes a prompt. I've lost my train of thought. So, since I've lost my train of thought, we will go on to a special Talking Junk announcement, right? But before we take our first mid-show break, like I just said, and I've said for weeks, the big announcement, next Saturday, October 11th, I will be streaming live from the Solution Summit in Longwood, Florida, from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Now, most speakers, they're going to be on stage for a set time, but we're doing something different. We're going to be speaking and hosting the entire 4.5 hours, doing a deep dive on gaining agency over our anger. And the best part is, I'll be pulling in some of the incredible speakers for live interviews, fresh off their performances. We'll also be taking questions from audience members coming in and out of the event right there on the spot. So it's going to be a whole day of talking junk live and in person for the very first time. We've never been live on location and in person. So please, I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart, go to Eventbrite right now if you can be there in person in Longwood, Florida. I want to fucking see you there. We all want to see you there. Although the vulgarity will be turned down because we're going to be in a church, so no vulgarness. But make sure if you can't be there, you're tuned into the Talking Junk Network. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, the entire live stream. Do not miss out. And we will be right back after a few words from our sponsors.
Tired of constant negative self-talk? Shut the Junk Up is the hothead's guide to quieting the noise. Take back control, unleash your calm, and start your journey to a happier you. Grab your copy now.
Come to the Shut the Junk Up Festival with spoken word artists, motivational speakers, and comedians.
Your ticket includes a delicious 3-course catered meal and a full night of carefully curated acts.
After the performances, the venue transforms into an exclusive after party for our VIP guests.
So don't miss out on this one-of-a-kind event. Get your tickets now.
Come to the Shut the
All right, welcome back. We are no stranger to technical difficulties, but right now.
No.
You can say no. He can say no. I can say no.
No, you can't take me.
But at the end of the day, you are going to be going to the
well,
hospital.
you can't force me to do that.
We can force you. I got this.
Because I'm black. It's because you're breaking my arm. You're breaking my arm. I don't want to go. You're breaking my arm. You're breaking my arm. I don't want.
Relax.
I'm not.
Take a breath.
I don't need a hospital.
Take a big. We have to get
My
a
son. No, you
Come
don't
on.
have to. No, do not.
You're
Do not.
You're okay. We're not.
No, I'm not going. I'm barefooted.
I know you are.
You're hurting me.
I'm barely touching.
Saying you're hurting
You're
her.
hurting
So I want that to
me.
be on all the body camera.
It is on all the body camera
And I
footage.
want
No.
access to it.
I'm black. That's why.
No, it's
You're hurting me.
I am now witnessing them grab my mother. I have the right to speak under the First Amendment to the Constitution. And they are grabbing my mother by force, and they're pushing her, and she is resisting. I am.
I'm not going. I don't want to
I'm
go.
for human rights.
No.
She's screaming. And she better get that piece of paper back. All those pieces of paper. They are taking her out by force. Mom, I
do
can't
it.
help
We
you.
have
Help
to.
you.
You only have a choice, ma'am.
Yes. Why not? No, I don't want to go. Yes. I don't want to go yet. I don't want to go yet. Don't hear me. You don't.
You gotta sit up.
It's okay. It's okay.
You're okay.
It's okay. We're okay.
Who are you?
This is an officer. I'm a social worker, okay?
I don't want to go anywhere.
I know. I'm sorry this is happening. Can we go to the hospital?
No, you're not sorry.
I am. I don't want to be doing this.
You're not
either.
sorry.
You're not
I
sorry.
don't want to do this either.
Do not take me anywhere now.
Unfortunately,
No, I don't
yes,
want to.
she's gonna have to be boosted up. Yeah.
Do not take me anywhere now. No.
Yep.
How dare you?
They're going to arrest me if I try to stop them. And I have to be out here in order to help you. But they're not going to tell me where to take me.
You want to experiment on me?
No, we're
Yes.
not gonna experiment
not.
Why don't put me back in my house? I want to go. I don't want to go. I want to die rather than go. I don't want to go.
What can we do for you?
I don't want.
I need her to let go of this so I can tighten it.
Where's the?
I'm not fighting
I
you.
got it.
You're fighting me. No, you're going to research.
No, we're not.
No, leave me in the house. Leave me in the house.
You're like trying to do
Leave me in the house. Leave me in the house.
It's okay.
Leave me in the house. Please. Leave me in the house. Leave me in the house. Leave
I
me
do
in
not
the
own the rights
I
to
am
this video, but
84
it is
years
posted
old.
on the next
I want God rather than man.
images
I want God. I pray to the Lord. I want to. Don't do that. Don't do for the world.
This right here. Yep.
I do not own the rights to this video, but I do have permission.
I think she's going to keep doing this. Yeah.
You're fighting me now.
No, you are fighting us.
You want to? Yes, it's mine.
You are fighting us.
It's my
We are
body.
not trying to fight you.
It's my body I'm fighting for. No. No, leave me. Leave me in my house. Leave me in my house. Leave me in my house.
They said that you have to go to the hospital.
No.
It's mandated. We have to
No!
do this.
I want.
You gotta back
It's
up a little.
mandated, and this is my money.
You were within 6
No!
inches of me, so yes, you need to move a little bit.
No!
By the way, you did this. This is something that you did. It is undisputable that you did.
That Christopher and Anthony did
By screaming, by continuing to tell her that she was being
I was very
kidnapped,
quiet after you
by
threatened me with arrest
continuing to
in
get in
violation
her
of First
ear.
Amendment.
All right. So the whole reason this
And your
happened
opinion is not
is
needed.
because
You're
of
within
you.
6 inches of it.
I don't want to. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go.
On the other side, bud. I would not tell her that.
It's not right. It's not right.
Please.
I don't want to be cut off. I don't want to go.
Which arm out?
This arm off.
Okay.
I would not tell her that because it's not true.
Okay.
No, I don't know that. I don't know what
I don't want to
Bring that
go.
arm down. I got this.
Because I'm black. It's because you're breaking my arm. You're breaking my arm. I don't want to go. You're breaking my arm.
You know.
You're breaking my arm. I don't want.
Relax.
I'm not.
Take a breath.
I don't need a
Take a big breath.
hospital. Your hospital is no good.
Eno, take a big deep breath. Big deep breath.
I don't want to go anywhere.
I know you don't,
I
but we
don't.
have to get you checked out.
No,
We have to get you
in
checked
my
out.
house.
How is this healthcare? We have to get you checked out. How is this healthcare?
You're cruel and wicked. You're
All right,
cruel
get
and
back.
wicked.
You can't get in this. Back
You're
up.
cruel.
I have minutes. Back up. Put the phone up here again. You're interjecting with us. Again, this is my house. No, it's not.
So sorry.
Eno.
Leave me alone.
Eno.
Leave me alone. I want to die rather than go. Leave me alone.
Eno.
Leave me in my house. Leave me in my house. Leave me in my house.
I'm sorry.
Leave me in my house. Leave me in my house. Leave me in
Eno.
my
Eno,
house.
let go.
Leave me. You want to experiment?
Nobody wants to experiment.
I want God, not you. I want God, not you.
Yeah, you can look up. You can look up.
It's the phone number and the letter I sent you.
Are you gonna tie that off?
Leave
Oh,
me
it's fine.
alone.
Oh, okay.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. You're embarrassing me. Leave me alone.
Good up there. We're gonna have to.
Leave me in my house.
Yeah, let's
Leave me in my house.
Hey,
I don't want to go.
The break is on.
yeah. So
Thank you.
we're definitely.
Yes, one of your body cameras.
Yep. Oh, thank you. Yeah. To get her to the building because it's 39:45. There was.
Okay, goodbye, Mom.
There
I
was
don't condone any of
an
this. I
SRR.
didn't support it. They threatened me with arrest.
It's minor. We'll take the camera off.
No, you're not.
Yes, I'm ready to die. I don't want to be experimented on. And it's a country doing it like this. You're like a jackass.
Yep. What do you need?
Don't even worry about that. We're gonna boost her up.
I get not cold now.
Basically, we had to grab her and escort. You got it. You hold him.
Sweating.
I'm not gonna grab her. I can't. Can we open up the door? We're not taking her.
You're breaking my arm. You're breaking my arm.
Tired of constant negative self-talk? Shut the Junk Up is the hothead's guide to quieting the noise. Take back control, unleash your calm, and start your journey to a happier you. Grab your copy now.
Hello. The mic for you, so I haven't been able to hear you.
All right, so the microphone's been off this whole time.
So now I can hear you.
I will keep saying this on the show, we are no stranger at all to technical difficulties. Well, I did say, welcome back to the second hour of Talking Junk. Our guest at this time is someone whose story is a powerful reminder that intrusive thoughts aren't always internal. Sometimes they're planted by injustice. Jonathan Farley was fighting, God rest her soul, for the freedom of his mother, Dr. Emma Farley, who was placed into a guardianship without consent. Jonathan, thank you for being here. Can you walk us through exactly what happened?
Yes, thank you for having me. So on February 5, 2023, I was looking for my mother. She'd been kidnapped about 5 days before. I didn't realize she was kidnapped at the time. A bunch of cops showed up at her house. They didn't say who they were, and they left with her. And but when she didn't come back in the evening, I realized, oh, she's being taken. The police wouldn't tell me where she was, nor would they tell me why they weren't going to tell me where she was. But I guessed where she might be on February 5, 2023. That's because she was supposed to meet a friend on that date. And my mother, sure enough, was at the place with the alleged friend, whose name is Martha Clasquin. And I went up to my mother and said, the woman next to you, a different woman, had kidnapped you 5 days ago. And my mother immediately said, let's go. And I asked my mother what she wanted to do. She wanted to come back to the house where we both lived. And we did that. And then within about 15 minutes, the police came. And my mother told them, I'm fine here. I didn't know who these other people were that I was with, but I want to be under the care and guidance of my son, meaning me. At that point, the police were trespassing. They were required by law to leave at that point, but they stayed for another 2 hours. And now on police body camera footage, we can see that my brother, Christopher John Farley, was telling them that I might murder my mother within seconds if they don't get her out. Of course, this is a lie. He never put that evil allegation in print anywhere because even he was not brazen enough to lie like that in an official document. But after about an hour or two, the police came up with another plan, and that was to pretend that my mother needed to take high blood pressure pills. I told the police, and you can hear it in the police body camera footage, that the pills were in the house. My mother took them. They're on the kitchen table. You can even see them in the kitchen table in some of the police body camera footage. At least you can see some pills. And there's no law requiring you to take high blood pressure pills. My mother was taking the high blood pressure pills, which is why they're on the table. She was taking them when they kidnapped her the first time. And they just, at some point, grabbed her arm. My mother screamed, "You're breaking my arm." And they tied up her hands and feet like a fugitive slave, tying her to a gurney which is illegal, actually. If someone is in a nursing home, which my mother was not, it's illegal to tie up someone like that in New York State. But they tied up my mother like that to take her from her house, which she was the sole owner of, in which she and I were the only legal residents of. And then they took her, and I didn't see her again for 8 months. She was hidden away completely for 5 weeks, again, with the police not telling me where she was and not telling me why they weren't going to tell me where she was. But it turned out they had taken her to a memory care facility called Cranberry Landing, in 30 miles from our home. This is completely illegal. My mother was not mentally incompetent. No judge or doctor had declared her to be mentally incompetent. My brother did not live in the home. He claimed to have power of attorney, but that does not give you the right to kidnap someone, take them against their will. He claimed to have be the healthcare proxy, but the healthcare proxy powers only came into effect if my mother was terminally ill, permanently unconscious, or had a permanent brain injury and would never again be able to express her wishes. When she was screaming, "You're breaking me arm, leave me in my house," she was expressing her wishes. She actually also was saying she needs to see a lawyer. They never allowed her to choose a lawyer. Her constitutional rights were stolen from her, even under the guardianship laws of New York State. Now, there was no guardianship case going on. My brother started it 2 weeks after the kidnapping. So this was simply a kidnapping for which my brother should be arrested, and for which all the police and ambulance personnel should be arrested, and for which the staff who interacted with my mother at Cranberry Landing should be arrested. But 2.5 years later, there have been no arrests. In fact, it's gotten worse. My brother, after my mother's death, made himself executor. How can you make yourself executor of my mother's estate? He made himself executor by not telling me. So I was not present at the court case where he was made executor. This means that hearing was without legal validity. The court had no jurisdiction because I was a clearly interested party, an important party, an heir of my late mother, and I wasn't present. But he used that to get the judge to give the house to him, or to the estate of my mother, which he controlled as if it was his alone. And then he evicted me from the house, which is also illegal, because even if the house was not previously mine and not part of the estate of my mother's, I would have been a part owner of that house, of that estate. I was evicted, and then it wasn't enough. You see, my father's cousin, Jane Farley, was also living in the house. He didn't evict her. He just physically threw her out. He physically had her tossed out and tossed her stuff on the front lawn. This is totally illegal in New York State. You're supposed to be immediately handcuffed. But the police, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in New York State, they do nothing. They allow my brother to commit any crime against my mother, Ina Farley, against me, or against Jane Farley, and they do nothing. And now this Monday, my brother submitted a fraudulent deed, just making the house, claiming that he could sell the house to our neighbors. But this is a fraudulent deed because there was never any case which transferred the ownership or the deed to him or to the estate of Ina Farley. He just submitted a fraudulent document. But that's not the worst part. The worst part was the torture that my mother was subjected to. If you've been to a memory care facility, you know those people really in there usually have severe brain damage.
Yeah,
if you watch the video and the YouTube channel Free Ina Farley, everybody says my mother is of sound mind. And you know what?
Yes,
that was a low point for my mother in terms of cognition. And that's one thing I was worried about.
I do work in a memory care unit, partial for my buildings, and there are people that do have lucid moments, especially during times of distress like that. So, I mean, I don't know the situation, but that is unbelievable. And for listeners who are unfamiliar, can you just break down what guardianship is and what it's supposed to be, and how the system can be weaponized the way it has been against your mother?
Yes, the way guardianship is supposed to be, it's when someone really can't take care of his property or his person. So severe Alzheimer's or something like that, where you don't even know the names of your children, something along those lines. And then you could be exploited. But the reality is, it's weaponized because the judges, the court-appointed employees, like the court-appointed attorneys or the court evaluator, they get paid thousands of dollars, or maybe not the judges, but the people the judges selects to supervise matters. They've taken tens of thousands of dollars from my mother alone. And for what? The court evaluator wrote a 30-page report which contained errors on virtually every page, if not every page. And he didn't interview people in person. At least he didn't interview me in person. And he didn't include the most important fact that my mother, they had no right to take my mother, and she should have been immediately released. The court-appointed attorney even said in court he doesn't think my mother should even know there's a court case going on. So he obviously was not representing her, and the only evidence we have that he even ever saw her was in the court evaluator's report. But if he didn't think that she should know that there's a court case, he probably didn't tell her, right? So my mother had an attorney. She had a firm that we used. She was not allowed to select any attorney, and she was kept in the dark. You see, my brother made sure that only people on a small list, might even have just had 8 names on it, but the list we subpoenaed had 17 names. Only people on that tiny list were allowed to see or even talk to my mother. That list excluded me. It excluded my other brother, Felipe Farley. It excluded my mother's younger sister. It included my brother's lawyers, who my mother doesn't know. And that was also unlawful. Why should his lawyers have contact with my mother? We were not even allowed to have a doctor analyze my mother. In fact, as far as I know, they never had the required by law 2 psychiatrists evaluate my mother and say she was mentally incompetent. But it wouldn't even matter if they had. I don't think they did, but it wouldn't even have mattered if they had, because you don't kidnap the person first and then evaluate the person next after you've drugged them.
So
it's weaponized.
When you tried to speak up, right? When you tried to speak up, how did the system even respond to you?
How did the system respond? As I said, they didn't even know where my mother was for 5 weeks until my brother was named temporary guardian illegally. And then it continued for 2 years to keep me off balance. First, the judge, Christopher.
When it first started.
So the actual date was January 31st, 2023, when a bunch of police just showed up at our house. They didn't say why they were there. They didn't even say who they were. We thought they were there because there was a woman named Mary Ho, H-O, that my brother Chris had put in my mother's house about 12 days before. She'd been in our house 8 or 9 days and then left. My mother didn't want this woman there. My mother told me that Mary Ho was treating her like an idiot dog. Now, if you look at the YouTube channel Free Ina Farley, you can see what Mary Ho is up to. She admits to police on police body camera footage that she's going to take the house, that my mother's going to be sent away permanently that day, and she, Mary Ho, is taking the house, and she's going to lock me out, which incidentally would be an illegal eviction. So she is conspiring with an officer of the law about how she is imminently going to commit a crime, and he is agreeing with it. He is supporting it. There are parts that we don't see. If that's the part that they left in when they gave me the police body camera footage, imagine what they left out. They were saying things like, but the real issue is, and then the police body camera footage cuts off. So it's like that Seinfeld episode where George thinks he got the job, only it's not funny. So Mary Ho was there to take the house. She was abusing my mother. I can say without any fear of defamation that she was drugging my mother. I saw it with my own eyes.
What was she using?
Yes, she was giving my mother melatonin, which most people think is an innocuous drug. But my mother does not need melatonin did not need it for sleeping. She never had any trouble sleeping. But melatonin does increase the likelihood of dementia and memory loss by 79% for people in my mother's demographic. So I suspect, although this is the part that I cannot prove, that she knew that and that my brother knew that, which is why they became obsessed with giving my mother melatonin, because they wanted to create the condition that did not exist. Now, my mother did have a memory problem. She had trouble remembering what happened the day before, which is bad, but not life-threatening. In order for police to justify invading your house without a warrant, without a court order, without even a court case, they have to say that the person is a danger to herself or others. Well, my mother was not a danger to herself or others. They were the ones who were a danger to her, which is why she was screaming, "You're breaking my arm." And the vulnerable individual who was supposed to be protected by guardianship was exploited by guardianship. We think that my mother should have had $2, maybe $4 million. She has $0, according to my brother, Chris Farley. I have not received this isn't about inheritance, but I have not received 1 cent in inheritance since my mother died about 14 months ago, with my brother Christopher being the executor. So where did that money go? Even my brother admits that when he kidnapped her in February 2023, her estate was worth $580,000. You might think, oh, was it the lawyers? No, the judge said no one was to take my mother's money for his lawyers. Was it
580, right?
Yes.
What made you think that there was 4 to 5 million?
Because a simple calculation, in order for my mother to have as little as $580,000, she would have had to have had nothing when my father died in 2010, except the house. And then she would have had to have spent 3/4 of her income, which in 2018, her taxable income was $82,000, and it might have been even $107,000 from her retirement account added on to that. She would have had to have spent 3/4 of her income for 13 years, 15 years, well, 13 years at that point, and had nothing in the bank when my father passed away, and had nothing.
They should have came with better receipts to a mathematician, huh?
Yeah, so I'm using my math skills, and this is highly improbable. But even my brother claimed she had $580,000 18 months before she died, but that when she died, he said she only had $25,000 and the house. Now, he provided no proof of this. I have proof that my mother had less than $6,100 in her bank account 10 days before she died, whereas 4 months before she died, she had $197,000 in her bank accounts and another $37,000 in her retirement TIAA CREF account. Where did that money go? It was all removed before she died. So when I tried to get access to my mother's bank records, the judge fined me $13,000, and he fined my attorney $10,000. Actually, it wasn't even me doing it. It was my attorney trying to get access to my mother's bank records. When I raised the issue again, the judge threatened that he would he would sanction me more, including monetary sanctions. Even though I'm entitled by law, of course, to know about my mother's finances, not just after her death, I'm an heir, but before I was entitled to know, because that's what a guardianship is about. It's about the person and the property. I wasn't allowed to even see her medical records. The same medical records that presumably were the justification for putting her in a guardianship, I, as one party opposing that guardianship, was not allowed to even see. And to this day, I have not seen them, with one exception. Her doctor said he doesn't understand why they took her. Her doctor wrote me a fax or gave me a copy of a fax he wrote on February 6th, one day after the violent kidnapping, saying she was totally taken care of by the younger son, meaning me, and he doesn't question he questions the legality of taking her from her home. The doctor was actually incorrect. I did not take care of my mother. If anything, she took care of me. But the point remains, her own doctor did not see why she was taken. But after the kidnapping, my brother's attorney, Miles Zatkowski, made sure that these records were considered irrelevant. He actually said that doctor's records are irrelevant.
Now, I know this is a battle that's taken an incredible emotional toll. How has it affected you and the people that are on your side of the spectrum? How do you guys support each other through this?
Well, it's affected me because I was homeless for about 3 months after my brother evicted me, and then illegally evicted my father's cousin, Jane Farley, tossing her. She's a 79-year-old woman, tossing her stuff on the lawn. He did it. His realtor, Rich Miller, did it, but the realtor was working for my brother. Obviously, he was my brother's agent. My brother might try to say he didn't tell the guy to do this. And then the house, which I owned 9 months ago, is now in the hands of, well, first my brother took it by force, literal force, and then now he's claiming to have sold it to the neighbors. My neighbor Paul Sullivan assaulted me last Friday when I went into the house, and he assaulted me. Now you might go, well, he sold it, but no, it's not. It wasn't a legal sale. So the house legally belongs. This is slightly more complicated, but I'll just say it quickly. The house legally belongs to someone else. I sold the house to someone else, and the house cannot be taken from that person under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution unless that person has due process, notice, and a hearing. He has not, therefore the house still belongs to him. So someone can say whatever they want, that they own the house and they can sell it to someone else, but that's no different than my saying, I'm going to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Right. So I had every right to be in the house that I owned 9 months ago, and that my father's cousin was still the only legal resident of, because she'd been illegally evicted. By law, she needed to be reinstated immediately. And so it was my neighbor who was trespassing, and he assaulted me in that in those premises, for which I'll sue him, of course. Why don't I go to the police? Because the police always side with my brother. So we have a mafia going on. Now, how do we support other people? Well, I met a family of sisters whose house is now under threat by the same judge, Christopher Ciaccio. He and his gang are trying to steal the house that is owned by one of the sisters. They railroaded their father into a guardianship, gave another sibling, if what they told me is true, and I can believe it, but I'm just saying that for purposes of legal purposes, gave it to the control of another sister, and now they want to halt everything about this, or bring everything under the guardianship, even though that's not lawful. If the house is owned by someone else, you don't get to say, okay, it really is the father's, and so we're going to now give it to the control of this other sister who is the guardian of the father. Incidentally, the sister told me that they didn't have 2 psychiatrists evaluate her father either, and that her father also, like my mother, was not present at the guardianship trial. So all of their rights are being violated, and it's by the same judge, Christopher Ciaccio. So something is going on. We went to the local office of the Attorney General, New York State Attorney General, and said something is going on with this judge. He needs to be investigated. There's something happening with real estate, taking real estate from seniors, using guardianship as the pretext, and it needs to be investigated. Also, the police, I have most of their names, who committed this crime, all need to be arrested. The police that you can see in the video on the YouTube channel, Free Ina Farley. And there are more complete videos at inafarleytaken.com, inafarleyjan31.com, and inafarleyfeb5.com for February 5. And you can see the videos edited only by the police. There are other people who are victims of guardianships. It looks like just about everyone is a victim. It seems that there are hardly any cases where it's legitimate. It seems to be that it's just used to take the property of seniors, and that it goes the same way. You have some sibling or some child who maybe didn't care about the parent or was never around, who flies in, swoops in, isolates the weak older person so that no one can talk to him or her, and then they defame all of the protectors, the people who were caring for the elder person, and then they loot the estate. Some people have successfully defeated guardianships, but they never get the money back. Now, I would rather have my mother than the money, but as it happens, right now I have neither.
Now, in my book, right, it's a guide for hotheads, and this situation is genuinely enraging. How have you managed to channel the rage constructively into advocacy instead of letting it become a bursting trash bag that consumes?
Well, I am fighting for now the dignity of my mother and justice for my mother. I am perplexed continually by my brother's ability to convince people to commit crimes. My neighbors, for example, are now guilty of real estate fraud. the county clerk by allowing this fraudulent deed, even though I warned the county clerk that a fraudulent deed might be entered, is now also guilty of falsification of government records, perhaps, or some kind of deed fraud. The police obviously are guilty of kidnapping, assault, and so forth. So I don't know what powers, what superpowers or supervillain powers my brother has. I am helping other victims. There is a law that we want to pass in New York State called Carolyn's Law, which will curb the ability of malicious family members to block other relatives from seeing someone, even if the person has a guardian. So that is, you have to have a real reason to block someone. Right now, once someone has a guardian, that guardian can imprison that person and they'll never see the light of day. This is what happened to my mother. But other people can't see them. And other people, unfortunately, infer that there must be a real reason, because people who haven't been through the situation naively believe that, oh, you'd only block someone if there were a real reason, if there's some sort of danger. Just as the police, if I'm to be the most charitable to them, maybe they thought, oh, Christopher Farley wouldn't have said that his brother was going to murder his mother unless there was a real danger of that. Of course, they wouldn't think, oh, maybe Christopher Farley, and this is upon information and belief, stole $1 million or $2 million from my mother, and he wanted to cover it up. And that's the reason why he kidnapped my mother, made himself guardian, or tried to, and then defamed me and kept me away at arm's length, and then ultimately took my house to keep me destabilized and tried to drain my resources with constant legal attacks. But that's as plausible a theory as, oh, Ina Farley really needed help. Well, if she really needed help, then any doctor would have been able to say so. And so there shouldn't have been a reason to block me from having a doctor evaluate my mother independently of his doctors or whatever doctors he had who worked for the facility. So they had a financial incentive. So I'm trying to work with other people like these sisters. I think I've helped them already because I gave them advice about how to file appeals. They probably were not aware that when the judge Macho tried to railroad their father into a guardianship, that they only had a strict 30 days to appeal. I met them on day 25 or 26, so they were able to submit their notice of appeal. And if the law is followed, they'll win. The problem is that in Monroe County, New York State, the law is not followed. People use the word mafia a lot. There's a mafia. There's a mafia going on. I'm not saying that because of Chacho's name. I'm saying it because these people actually are organized in order to carry out these crimes. For example, my brother made himself executor. We are fighting that. Our first hearing to try to repeal my brother, to revoke my brother's status as executor, will be in 2 months. 14 months after he made himself executor. But when my brother wants a hearing, it's in 2 days. The judge gives him a hearing within 2 days or a meeting within 2 days. The hearing to take my house I was sent an email, and then 9 days later was when it was scheduled. It then was postponed to 21 days later. No, 19 days later. 12 days, sorry, scheduled for 12 days, and then it was postponed to something like 19 days. So no time to get a lawyer, no time to prepare for anything. And yet when I want a hearing, it either never happens or it's in 2 months, 3 months. And the same thing seems to have happened with these two sisters. They have a third sister who sued them. They got served, and then the hearing was 2 days later. I mean, maybe that's legal, but it seems to me that it should be. I thought you had 30 days to even respond to a summons, just to respond to it.
I'm not sure of the legality of it.
I'm not sure of the legality either, and that's how they operate here in this town. And they know that no one will stop them. None of these agencies that are supposed to do anything. The ACLU in New York is called the New York CLU. They do nothing. The NAACP, I didn't even hear from them about a Black woman being tied up like a fugitive slave by white police. The National Organization of Women, the local president even tried to justify it a woman being brutalized by male cops screaming, "You're breaking my arm." That's an 84-year-old woman. They haven't done anything. The New York State Department of Health started 2 investigations. They never did anything. It wasn't until a month before my mother's death that I realized that they had my brother and the facility had violated the New York State Department of Health's own list of rights of residents of assisted living facilities. They prevented my mother from seeing visitors that she wanted to see, and they blocked mail. They have admitted this. Obviously, we know that they blocked people from seeing her and calling her, but they also blocked mail, and they admitted doing so. They blocked the court papers. So by law, my mother was supposed to see my cross petition papers challenging the guardianship, and they admitted that they blocked.
I'm not quite sure if she's in a memory care facility, if she's able to comprehend documents like that.
Oh, yes, she is. Yes, she is.
I understand you're saying your mother was competent enough to not even be in a memory care unit. However, the way those things operate, if she's in one, they already deemed her incompetent enough to not understand those documents. So they
actually, I'm sorry. There's the law. They didn't declare my mother mentally incompetent when they took her. She was kept for 10 months until the guardianship trial in that facility, and it wasn't until 10 months later that the judge from his bench in a courtroom said she was mentally incompetent. Before then, no one had even declared her mentally incompetent. So it doesn't matter even if she wasn't, but it wouldn't even have mattered if she was. There's the law. They are not allowed to treat her as if she was mentally incompetent. That's what they're supposed to prove. And moreover, it doesn't even matter. She retained her full rights until a guardianship was signed, which was actually not until a year later. She retained her full rights as a U.S. citizen. Now, there are people who have problems. Even the people who have problems retain their full rights as U.S. citizens until there's a court case that declares otherwise, which is why the bar is supposed to be high. So it wouldn't even have mattered if my mother couldn't understand the papers. They're not allowed to themselves make that decision. But in fact, my mother could have. And that wasn't the reason they gave for not giving it to her. The reason they gave was, they said they didn't want to upset her. Well, it's not their call. You have the right to be upset.
If they are the ones that are caring for her in the memory care unit, they can make the calls to not disrupt the peace at that moment in time. But let's move on.
Actually, I don't want to move on. It's illegal. The New York State Department of Health says the rights of residents of assisted living facilities. Their list says the assisted living facility is not allowed to block mail or allow any other person to block the mail. They're not allowed to stop the person from seeing visitors of their choosing or allow anyone else to do so. It's in black and white.
Well, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm actually trying to conduct an interview with you, which is quite difficult at the moment. But let's try to move on for the sake of the interview. In my book, I talk about an illusionary clean spot. This is where we put on our mask, so to speak, in public. So do you ever feel the pressure to look strong and put it all together even when you're falling apart?
I don't feel like I'm falling apart. I don't think I've felt like I'm falling apart. There were some occasions when, for example, my barber that I've gone to since I was a child with my mother, I didn't want to go there because then I thought, okay, I have to explain what's going on. And the problem with explaining what's going on is the bit about my not being allowed to see my mother, because I knew or thought that other people would not understand that. It's like, what? You're not allowed to see your mother? What's going on? You see, people would falsely make these inferences, and that's the defamatory part of these lists. However, the fact of the matter is, it wasn't just me barred from seeing my mother. It was everyone on earth. You were barred from seeing my mother, even though you didn't know it. My brother only allowed 17 people to see or talk to my mother, and that excluded one of my other brothers. It excluded my mother's younger sister. It excluded my father's cousin, Jane Farley. They threatened to call the cops on Jane Farley, even though she was 77 years old. It excluded another 77 or 78-year-old female friend of my mother's who was not allowed to see my mother. So it excluded a lot of people, but I didn't want to have to explain that. And so that's the only reason. And it's not so much that I put on a false face. I just decided not to go to the barber.
Okay. Now, through all of this, what keeps you going? What's the fuel for?
What keeps me going is that ultimately Christopher John Farley will go to prison. Now, my brother Anthony Farley, who participated with him in this kidnapping, he may go to prison. I don't know to what extent he may have kept his fingerprints off of it, but there were full co-conspirators in all of this. They didn't call my mother during the pandemic more than once every several months, but all of a sudden they were very interested in her after the kidnapping. Not interested enough to visit her in the facility. My brother Christopher only visited about 10 times in 1 year. He put my mother in a facility and then only visited about 10 times in 1 year. But according to according to the documents of the facility and my brother's own admission, but he will go to prison. The only question is how much will he destroy before then? He has taken the house by physical force. He threw out all of my belongings. So all of my childhood stuff is gone.
So your brother going to jail, is that the win for you? Or what does the win look like for you and your mother?
Yes, a win is my brother going to jail. Of course, it's not a win for my mother, but he will go to jail whether I want that or not. Well, I do want it. He will go to jail. I don't really view it so much. Before now, I never really thought of it as a win. But he will go to jail. It's justice. He committed numerous crimes: kidnapping, false imprisonment, perjury, illegal eviction, and upon information and belief, he has embezzled money and now deed fraud. So he certainly has done more than enough to warrant going to prison. The only question is who else will go to prison. And he needs to go to prison because while I am not going to stop until I get justice for my mother, his attacks have been relentless for 2.5 years. The only time he stopped was for a few months after my mother died, and that was when he was secretly making himself executor of the estate. He needed me to not pay attention to him while he was secretly making himself executor of my mother's estate. Other than that, it's been a nonstop, relentless attack by him and his attorneys, and no one asked the simple question. These attorneys cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've spent $150,000 on attorneys.
Beyond your personal case, what is the larger systemic change you hope your advocacy creates for other families?
Sorry, I didn't hear that because your volume is very low, unfortunately.
Beyond your personal case, what is the larger systemic change you hope to see your advocacy create for families?
I think guardianships need to end completely. They cannot be reformed because they leave such a tempting target for crooks who have law degrees to Shanghai seniors who are weak. They may not be weak in the mind, but they're physically weak, and then they can be not just exploited, but imprisoned, and then ultimately killed because they're over-medicated. So they're isolated, medicated, and then the estates are liquidated.
Now, Jonathan, I appreciate you sharing your story with such openness.
Thank you for having me on.
It's my pleasure. But before we wrap up, I need to switch gears for a second. Something that's part of the public eye, and my audience would be killing me in my inbox if I didn't ask these questions. Now, in 2019, you sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein proposing a multi-million-dollar donation to Morgan State University. You're a well-known advocate and a sharp guy, which makes that decision confusing for a lot of people. Can you walk us through that thought process in that moment? What was the story you were telling yourself that made sending the email a viable option?
No, in June 2023, 1 month before the guardianship trial of my mother was scheduled to take place, these stories were broadcast. My personal feeling is that, although I have no proof of this, that my brother Christopher John Farley, who's a prominent journalist, and his wife Sharon Epperson, who's a prominent journalist, one or both of them may have conspired to have these stories published. And I think that was to either distract me or perhaps to demonize me in order to somehow gain some advantage in the guardianship trial. The guardianship trial was...
I get it. I didn't...
Oh, no, I want to continue. The guardianship trial was postponed for another 5 months until December. And then yet again, 1 month before, I saw there was some podcast that was put out making the same allegations. So I suspect that that was the actual purpose behind it.
The purpose behind it leaking, or
that was the purpose behind these stories coming out, because they were strange stories.
Okay, so I get it, but that wasn't my question.
So I didn't quite hear your question.
So my question was, right? 2019, you sent that email to Epstein proposing the $1 million donation to Morgan State. You're well known, and you're a big advocate. You're a very sharp guy. That it makes people confused at the decision you make. Can you walk
No. So I did answer your question by correcting. In 2023, a publication called...
Well, you're
no. I am answering the question.
The reason why that is out there in the first place is because you feel like your brother put it out there to defame you even further in the case with your mother. But that's not answering the question on why.
Oh, no, I am answering the question. I'm saying that in 2023, in June 2023, a publication whose name I can't quite remember, but they were the ones who stated this. And then other publications then repeated that, but none of them were able to provide any proof of this. However, I will give you a scoop since you want a scoop. In 2017, Jeffrey Epstein did call me. He did give me a phone call. So I'm not tying it to any particular institution, but he did call me in 2017. Yes. And now, if you are asking, this is a totally separate issue, but if you are asking, should Jeffrey Epstein have called me in 2017? Well, you'd have to ask him. It's a little too late. However, he did give Harvard University's math department $6 million, and they did not give it back. And there are many philanthropists who give money who have done bad things. Accepting the money for research is not the same as saying we endorse what you were accused of. Also, it is a Christian sentiment to forgive people and then move on. It's also one for society. You do your time. This is different from saying we endorse the crime that you already presumably paid your debt to society for. The Rhodes Scholarship, for example, I would accept that. Most people would accept that. Bill Clinton accepted it. Ben Jealous, the president of the NAACP, accepted it. But Cecil Rhodes murdered thousands of Africans and stole gold and diamonds. And as far as I know, he created Rhodesia, a racist terrorist state. So people have this understanding that someone can be bad, but then the money they take. Or I actually had a meeting with James Watson, a Nobel laureate, who has said blacks have lower IQs than whites. I had a lunch with him. He invited me to lunch. He invited me to his apartment in New York City. And then he offered to make a donation. So some people could argue, well, should I accept a donation from James Watson, even though he has these racist views? Well, at the time, it wasn't clear if he really had the racist views or if other people simply had said so, although later it was established that he really did have those views, but this was before. But that's an interesting ethical question, but it is not at all, the so-called junk bond king has donated some $780 million to people, and he, I think, went to prison. So there are lots of cases like that. Jay-Z has admitted to being a drug dealer. He gives money to, I believe, Columbia University and so forth. So one could make the argument, I don't consider this controversial, And one reason why, for example, Zuckerberg gave $100 million to the schools in Newark was to repair his reputation, especially since the movie The Social Network came out. But I don't think his primary motive was to help the schools in Newark, New Jersey. But should they have turned the money down? But as it happens, this is a strange story because no money was given. People accept research money all the time, and I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. So I'm a nobody, and so it's clear that the story was put forth. It's weird that they could even do this.
The comment was kind of weird about
clear why it's an interesting
Bill
story.
Cosby comment was a little weird also.
Sorry?
The whole Bill Cosby comment that they made.
Bill Cosby. I actually have approached Bill Cosby for a donation as well.
No.
Or not as well. I want to say I approached Bill Cosby for a donation, and he has not donated. Bill Cosby's conviction was overturned, so he's an innocent man and always was. But more importantly, accepting a donation from Bill Cosby would not be an endorsement of any crime he was accused of. I consider it actually un-American to even say, "Oh, this person was accused of something, and therefore I'm not going to." They have a scarlet letter A, and it's not used in all cases. For example, Barack Obama had drone attacks that killed thousands of civilians. Everybody would love a photograph with Barack Obama, and they would accept the donation from whatever foundation he might have. So yeah, these are interesting ethical questions. I just like to raise the more interesting question. Why, when I'm a nondescript person, unknown, not famous, received no money, were there more stories about me than there were about Noam Chomsky, who was a famous professor at MIT who did receive money from Jeffrey Epstein? There's a professor at MIT who did receive money from Jeffrey Epstein. I saw no newspaper articles about that person. And there are some people who went to the island, and I didn't see the 7 or 8 or more stories that I saw about myself in that one time period. So the real question is why? Now, my brother has pulled out all the stops. And I think the reason is this, I have to say, upon information and belief. His wife, Sharon Epperson, was sued for $2 million by a man named James Beelan Rogers for discrimination. He sued her for discrimination. And the lawsuit was finally settled 1 month before my mother was kidnapped. Now, am I saying that they took my mother's money? I am not saying that because I don't have the proof, but I find the timing quite interesting. There was the final payment she was sued for $2 million, and there was a final payment 1 month before my mother was kidnapped. That's the sort of thing that should be investigated.
You're absolutely right. That is a very good point. Thank you, Jonathan, for your courage and your honesty today, both about your mother's fight and your own journey. And where can people go support your fight?
Unfortunately, I really did have trouble hearing you. I wasn't just saying that because I didn't like the Epstein question, but I appreciate it very much.
No worries. I just want to know where my people can go support your fight.
Well, they can go to the YouTube channel Free Ina Farley and share it, and they can try to reach the Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James, and tell her she needs to investigate these violent cops who brutalized an 84-year-old Black woman and who wound up being imprisoned against her will and drugged and tortured for the last 18 months of her life. And then ultimately, all of her assets, her former assets, were taken by the person who orchestrated all of this, or at least as far as we know.
Justice for Dr. Farley. Thanks a lot, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night. A huge thank you again to my guest, Jonathan Farley, for his incredible courage and honesty. His story is a powerful reminder of the work we have to do both inside our heads and out in the world. Now, it was a little challenging I will chalk it up to what he says was audio issues. I don't think the audio issues were on my end. My mic seems to be fine. You guys let me know in the comments if you can hear me. But some people just they're more worried about getting their story out there than you actually interviewing them. And I feel like that interview was one of those. And I get it. You're very passionate about what's happening, what happened to your mother, and I feel for it. I do, 1,000,000%. But if you want to come on the show and you want to get your story out there properly, let me ask the questions that I missed like 10, 15 questions here because he was more worried about listening to himself speak. Now, are all his gripes justified? Most of them, you know. Did I want to elaborate a little more and get a little more feedback on some of the stuff about his mother and her situation? I did. I really wanted to get into this because I do. For all of you that know who I am and know what I do, as my 9 to 5, I am a life safety director in ALF. I work in nursing homes. I work with memory care unit people. I have my human services certification, so I learned about these things. And some of the things that he was saying were spot on from a legal standpoint. But from a healthcare standpoint and some of the legality innuendos he was throwing around, I didn't want to argue. Right, I'll leave it there. And with his audio kind of being distorted, it was kind of hard to. There will be better episodes where I am not trying to use my book to calm down bullying. Right, that's our show for tonight. But before you go, listen up. Next week we're throwing the entire script out the window. There's no regular episode. That's because next Saturday I'm going from a one-man show here at the one-man marathon to over there to fucking Florida. I'll be back, Florida. It's been 2 years. I'm going to Longwood, Florida, doing my one-man marathon there. This is the first time I'm ever going to be live doing this podcast. It's a little nerve-wracking, and you know, you have professionals right next door on stage doing their 10, 15, maybe 20-minute bit about their spoken word, their choice of topic. Not me. I am there for 4.5 hours telling you about this anger, how you can control it, where it comes from, and I will have a couple of these for sale for you. So please come and see me in person, I hope. But like I said, I'll be broadcasting live from the Solution Summit in Longwood, Florida, 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Straight. No safety there. No edits. Just me. A microphone, special guests, and 4.5 hours to fill. You'll get to see the real junction. Completely unfiltered. What could possibly go wrong? You see what the hell goes wrong here on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So what the hell could possibly go wrong live at a big event? Nothing, because there's professionals there. My ass don't have to handle it by myself. So if you have an intrusive thought and a swarming pest telling you, nah, it's too early or it's too far, that's just your junk talking. Tell it to shut up and get in the car. I want to see you there in person. And if you can't make it to Longwood, I still got you. We're streaming the entire thing live right here on the Talking Junk Network. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. It's going to be a wild day. But until then, stay loud, stay clear, and keep tuning in to Talking Junk so you can learn ultimately how to shut the junk up.
Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.